So Hunter Biden is still out there doing Hunter Biden things. And his new thing is, I'm an artist, and I do artist stuff. So, like, watch this. I'm an expert. So he had this, I don't know what they call it, an art expo, art exhibition, or whatever, some show where he was trying to sell his art. And, it sold. It sold for a lot. So take a look at this article, and I'm going to run through it with you guys. Hunter Biden sells his first 5 pieces of art at $75,000 each. Listen to this. In Mediaite, Hunter Biden has successfully sold his first 5 pieces of artwork, according to a Friday report. At least 5 prints went for $75,000 each, according to an unnamed source who spoke with the New York Post. The Georges Berges Gallery that has been hosting Biden's artwork sold them before a pop-up presentation in Los Angeles. The buyers' identities were not made public. White House officials reportedly helped to craft an agreement earlier this year to keep their identities confidential from even the artist himself. Yeah, okay, I don't buy that. In order to limit concerns about bribery related to his father. If anything, I want the opposite. I want everybody to know their names. The public needs to know their names. President Joe Biden, of course, purchasers could still have the ability to out themselves in the future. Quote, most of those allowed to buy works are long-term private collectors with the gallery, people that Burgess knows personally, the source said. The gallery's next show is scheduled to take place in New York City in the spring. Quote, I would be amazed if my art sold for $10. Just because the first time that you ever go about it is the idea that someone is attracted to your art, let alone that they, not the key, I don't know where I got that from, let alone that they would pay something for it. The junior Biden said in an interview about his work in July, he said $10. I'd be surprised if it sold for $10. I do know enough to know that the value of an artist's work is not necessarily determined by the price, he added, but the price is completely subjective and sometimes has nothing to do with anything other than the moment. Now, you can see on the right there a tweet that shows the art that's sold. You guys saw it at the bottom right there. Throw that back up. Yeah, there you go. Look at the bottom right. It looks like an iPad cover, son. Look at that. Each one of those, $75,000 a pop. Okay, now, guys, Hunter Biden knows, even himself, he knows. $75,000 a pop. He said it right there. He was like, is the worth really based on the price? I don't know. It's really subjective, and it has a lot to do with the moment. You don't say it has a lot to do with the moment. Like, for example, this moment, Daddy is president. And we know previously with the whole, Burisma scandal? Is that the name of it? A Ukrainian energy company paid him a tremendous amount of money to sit on the board and do nothing. And then they try to get influence on Daddy. You know, there was another story that we covered recently. I forget what it was. I forget the specifics of it. But it was another example. They have emails where Hunter Biden is caught red-handed. Like, yeah, you give me X amount and I'll try to get to my dad for you. And, it had to do with lifting Libyan sanctions or something like that. Lifting Libyan asset sanctions. And so people reached out to Hunter and were like, hey, if we pay you, can we maybe get Daddy to lift those sanctions? And he's like, yeah, let me work on that. And, I think it was supposed to be for millions of dollars. Now, thankfully, that didn't happen. That didn't get through. But this is the kind of stuff that he's involved in and engaged in. So you're telling me he scribbles on a sheet of paper, that gets $75,000 for it, and I'm supposed to believe, no, we're going to make sure that this doesn't impact Joe Biden and this doesn't get back to him. Why do you think people are paying the $75,000? They're not paying it because they really love those art pieces by Hunter Biden. No. They're trying to get aligned to Joe Biden. Now, they said, well, we're going to keep their identities confidential and secret, even from Hunter, so that there can't be corruption because they don't even know who it is. I guarantee you, Hunter found a way to get their identities. But now what's the reality? We don't know their identities. We don't know them. So now, if there is some sort of corrupt deal that happens, how the hell are we going to know? Because there's no transparency. We don't know who bought the art. So you see how that trick worked? Let's hide the identity from everybody, including Hunter. No, Hunter's going to find a way to figure it out. And then now we don't know who it is. So when there's a corrupt deal, we're not going to have any of the information. Unless, of course, we're lucky and we stumble across some more Hunter emails that are like, hey, would you like to do some corruption and bribery with me? Now, listen, I don't want to just pick on him and pick on the Bidens, because the fact of the matter is What do you think the Clinton Foundation was? The Clinton Foundation was like, let me go take a bunch of money from dictatorships and then have that impact Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and policy in the process. They did it. What do you think was going on with Donald Trump? He had a Trump Foundation, number one, but there was also all the various Trump businesses. We covered the stories. At his D.C. hotel, took $300,000 from Saudi Arabia through his hotel. And then, whoa, would you look at that? He turns around and approves a weapons deal worth billions of dollars for Saudi Arabia. So they're all doing it. You know, back in the 1970s, you had Jimmy Carter had to sell his peanut farm, not because he was doing corruption as president, but because it presented even the opportunity or the appearance that something might go wrong, that there might be some corruption. But in today's day and age, Numbnuts McGee is allowed to sell a sheet of paper with some scribbling on it for $75,000, and we're supposed to go, no, that makes sense. That's totally cool. It's the most obvious scam of all time. It's so obvious. God damn it. And anybody out there who's denying this, take off your partisan blinders. I just gave you three examples, and there's an extreme amount of detail and reporting on each of those examples, whether it's the Trump crime family, the Clinton crime family, or now the Biden crime family. This is how it works. This is the way the sausage is made. So it's amazing to me. The final point is this. How amazing is it that you're not going to get any coverage on CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News about any of this? Fox might touch the Biden thing in the same way that, you know, MSNBC probably touched the Trump's family making a tremendous amount of money as daddy's president. But, like, you don't get real across-the-board outrage coverage on all of this stuff because the partisan blinders sort of influence what gets discussed and what doesn't. And that's a damn shame because corruption is definitely a bipartisan issue. And it is arguably the biggest issue in the country because it affects all other issues. Now, this just happens to be a clear-cut example of, like, you know, I'll give you money, I want to lie to your father, and I want him to do X, Y, or Z for me. But you got to understand, this is the way all U.S. politics work. What do you think it is when ExxonMobil donates a tremendous amount of money to Republican politicians? They're inaction on climate change. They're buying subsidies from taxpayers, which is just a giant welfare check to some of the most profitable corporations in the world already. Why do they need more money? Why do they need taxpayer money? They don't. They are effectively bribing politicians to do that for them. So it's a tiny investment to get a much bigger payoff. What do you think it is with Wall Street when Wall Street funds all these politicians? What do you think that is? They're funding them so that next time the shit hits the fan because all their terrible business practices, they get another bailout. No strings attached. That's what it is. What do you think when the military-industrial complex gives these politicians money? What do you think they're doing? They are buying more war and more no-bid contracts. The whole system is run like that. And if you ask a fish, hey, how's the water? They go, what's water? You ask somebody in D.C., look at this corruption, look at this bribery. They're like, what are you talking about? This is just how it works. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take $0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.